You're listening to the 14th source for all geeky and nerdy news and discussion, which means that you're listening to a podcast.
For all intents and purposes.
I am D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
And we are your two overeducated, codependent nerd hosts, bringing you the things that we like to talk about, but filtered through inquisitive and critical lenses. In the episode for Friday, November 15th, 2024.
Okay. Big update. Big update.
What new show has Joe Locke signed on to now, Andrew?
No, I actually, I think, I've talked about how I'm very slowly making my way through The Walking Dead. And recently I got to, not the end of season 4, but the end moment of season 4, which for those who have seen the show, it's when the main characters get forced out of the prison by the new doctor. And
Shoot, he got what?
Oh, I'm sorry, the next doctor. I'm sorry, the next doctor, not the new doctor, the next doctor. And actually, I realized, I watched this episode, it ends, I'm like, well, that was the end of the season. I'm like, there's 2 episodes after this. I'm like, what? And the one thing I will say, I've had an ongoing commentary on zombie apocalypse fiction because it has this very iconic Americana, I can shoot my neighbor.
Yes,
right?
Apple pie and zombies. That's really how I think of it.
The idea that there's a lot of it I can kill my neighbor is this modern zombie apocalypse thing. It's finally my chance to. In fact, there's a Simpsons episode from years and years ago where it's a zombie episode. It's the Halloween special, and Homer shoots what's his name, the neighbor with the mustache,
Flanders,
and it's like, oh, how'd you know he's a zombie? And he says he was a zombie, he just shoots him. But I would say is that at the end of season 4, they do actually have a moment that for me was I had such a good feel. And I want to talk about it real quick before we talk about other stuff, that it's when, the next doctor, whatever, the governor, has kidnapped Michonne and Herschel. And basically said hey, you're going to surrender the prison to us and we're going to take it. And it's the moment where Rick Grimes, the protagonist, the leader, de facto leader of the group, he basically there's this moment where he and Herschel exchange glances and he says no, you could just live with us. We could be a community together, but maybe separate. Right. And I realized that's what I want from these apocalypse stories, that people try to work together. And of course, spoiler, the narrative of The Walking Dead is it doesn't work out because literally the next doctor just fucking executes Herschel and gunplay is, happens. But there's a moment where wow, this show just tried to touch what I wanted. That's weird. But wow. it tried to do the narrative that I think I want to see, except then it pivoted to, but it failed.
Right.
And I watched it 4 days ago. I've been thinking about it every day. Oh wow, this show it tried, except that it tried, and I feel part of me is but it tried to fail. It wanted it to be a failure because that's the show. That's the story that people suck. But for a minute there was and literally they had Rick and Herschel exchanging glances this is who we are. We have to extend the safety in the civilization to others, even if we don't like them, even if they are people that caused us pain in the past.
Right.
And God, I realized there's no show there. Here's a show where we work together and boop, boop, it works out. That's not a show that you can make for 11 plus seasons.
Right. It's just frustrating. You feel with the right, reasoning or evidence, they could have had the governor character, let's just regenerate into somebody else. Right. Into somebody new and better.
Into Shooty Gatwa.
Why is a zombie in my closet?
But so anyway, they're just it's a weird moment where again is
we should explain this real quick. When Andrew keeps saying the next Doctor, he's talking about the actor David Morrissey, who plays the governor in The Walking Dead, but he was in a single episode from 2008 of Doctor Who called The Next Doctor.
So like to me like the voice and the character, like when he shows up in The Walking Dead, I'm like, I know this man. Mm-hmm. And I had to look him up. Like, what do I know him from? It was like he has a whole. I mean, the man is an actor, right? He's been working for forever. But I was like looking through. What do I know him from? Oh, here it is. Boop. The Next Doctor.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. Like, it's a weird thought place for me because it was just that moment of like seeing for a hot second The Walking Dead do the thing that I want. Mm-hmm. And then like turn it to, oh, but no, eat shit. You're like, oh. And again, I'm, committed to making bad life choices. So we'll see where I get in a year or two.
Have fun, man. You said that was season 4. I guess I'd stuck with that show a lot longer than I realized. That's crazy. A lot longer. I still didn't make it, in hindsight, halfway through the show. But yeah, that's...
I mean, man. I love the fact that I, knowing the big moment that when Glenn dies, which, I've told some of my friends, never kill your Glenn. I keep thinking that was at the end of season 4. It's like, actually, it's the end of season like 6 or 7, right? But however, that I mentioned that moment because that moment actually was when they had like a pretty big drop on viewers. Because like even though it was in the comics, like people saw that and they're like, oh, yikes. No thanks. And honestly, I don't know why I'm like, I will say again.
Seriously, why are you giving a fuck about The Walking Dead?
Well, because I have an obsession with zombie literature.
Which is strange. We should probably examine that a little bit more.
Yeah, well, again, I think we've talked about it a bit. But more importantly, the fact that this show not only exists, but I swear to God, there's more Walking Dead than Law and Order.
Well,
that's an exaggeration.
What comes after Law and Order, Andrew? The Walking Dead. I think that describes the arc of humanity at this point.
Actually, Star Trek, I think, is also like it's Star Trek, Law and Order, Walking Dead. Yikes.
Well, I was if you put them in order of like what the arc of human history will actually be, it'll probably be Law and Order, Walking Dead, and then we finally
Star Trek. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want any solace from the last week of news, dear listeners, just know that things went real bad before we get to Star Trek. So
right. Like literally, First Contact teaches us we have to go through World War III.
That fucking sucks.
Actually, I remember I was talking to a coworker. He said I said, oh man, every time I think about this, like I realize we have to go through World War III to get to the luxury space communism. And like without missing a beat, he's like, oh, the Econ are attacking. And I was like, what? I was like, oh no, that's literally a line from the movie. I don't even know what the Econ is, but they attack.
We passed by, didn't we pass by the Irish Unification?
The Irish Unification and the Bell Riots.
Uh-oh. Well, we're behind schedules.
Which is even worse. We also passed by the eugenics wars, so let's not get too hot.
If all those happened after I die, I'd be okay with that. But speaking of things I want to happen before I die, Andrew, we are coming here to talk about, we don't usually do this, but why not? We're focusing on the light, on the superficial, on the endorphin generating joy of new exciting things, because a few new trailers have dropped and they're pretty good. We're
talking about
Marvel trailers. Yeah, I forgot the important ingredient there. Which, I mean, Andrew and I tend to be optimistic generally when it comes to Marvel stuff, but let's be honest, like the discourse around Marvel, the sort of the fervor around Marvel properties has kind of either sort of faltered or fallen a little bit in recent years.
No, don't look. I just spent last week talking about my love for
Joe Locke. Yes,
No,
I
no,
know. He
Agatha
happened to be in a
All
show
Along.
called Agatha.
Agatha.
No. That's where I think actually that feeds into exactly what I was saying. Like these trailers, I think, are indicative of a recent sort of not shift, but just spate of efforts from Marvel that are finding a voice again. I think is probably the nicest, not the nicest, but I think the best way to say it. Because like, I think one of the biggest criticisms is like, you know, it's got the Marvel the movies they've been releasing have the Marvel sheen. They're kind of formulaic, but like, especially as we talked about last week and in episodes previous, their TV efforts have been rather novel and thoughtful.
Sometimes. I watched Secret Invasion, sir.
Oh, I did not. That's why I didn't think it, because I didn't even bother. People, what phase are we in? 5, 6? Who cares?
Whatever.
The most recent phase has gotten a lot of focus and criticism, and perhaps starting with Agatha, perhaps starting with X-Men '97, we're seeing Marvel kind of get some traction again, and these trailers for 2 movies in a show seem to just kind of keep that momentum going, at least by my estimation. We haven't talked too deeply about it, but they actually, especially for the 2 movies I was kind of like, yeah, they'll be fun, I'm sure. To like these new trailers, I'm like, these look awesome.
Right. No, actually, so let's what 2 movies we're talking about? Thunderbolts and
With an asterisk.
And Captain America: Brave New World. 2 movies that like we knew like they're in development, whatever.
Right.
And there was
they've
a
even
teaser.
released teasers before, yeah.
Right. But suddenly these trailers came out. It was like, oh, these are movies that like look like they might be great. I say that, gonna regret that in 6 months.
With an asterisk.
With an asterisk. But I want to talk about first Captain America: Brave New World, which is the new film with Harrison Ford, Anthony Mackie, other people,
And not to confuse you, like Esposito.
Esposito. Let's see, Carl Lumbly.
Oh, is that
Isaiah Bradley.
yes.
Yeah. But he's also the voice of John Jones in DC animated shows for years.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so I want to talk about that one because I watched that trailer and it's like it came out, I think, on Sunday.
Something like that, yeah.
And fucking yikes.
Explain.
Like, so
Clear
here's
your
a
throat and
trailer
explain.
that's
Yeah.
basically the narrative of the film seems to be like they're trying to capture the feel, I assume, of Winter Soldier, which is that like
Totally.
that Captain America has to now realize that like America is fucked and he has to go independent to fix it. Right? Which is what Winter Soldier was like, oh, hey, Cap, like, guess what? Everything's fucked. You literally go rogue because Hydra has taken over.
Right.
Which was a solid film, like really good. But like
You very much enjoy that film.
yeah, I think it's a good movie. Some call it like the best of that year group or whatever, right? Whatever. Like it was a
The
solid
valedictorian of that phase of Marvel.
like it was because it set a tone that was different from the previous films.
Right.
Like here we see the hero like, out of his element, like whatever. But also we see Captain America essentially fighting America.
Right. And that combined with like the really sort of grounded story, it's not very much, I mean, it is a movie of superheroics, but not, lasers and space battles. which Marvel hadn't gotten too far into at that point. And that's really enforced by kind of the cinematography of it. It's filmed like a 70s spy action movie, right? And they seem to be kind of echoing, as you said, that vibe at the very least here, in addition to, of course, the story itself.
Right. But the reason why when I watched the trailer, I was like, oh shit. Actually, I texted you and Taylor, friend of the show, Taylor. I was like, oh damn, this is weird that the whole premise is that America is fucked and Captain America has to go rogue.
Why is that weird? I don't understand.
It releases a month after Trump's inauguration. Which
you had to
for
say
a
it
lot
out
of
loud,
people,
didn't you? You had to say it out loud.
I had to say it, like, for a lot of people, that's like a big yikes, right?
A little bit.
So like, it's such a. I mean, they didn't plan that. You know?
No, no, that's the best part. Like, yeah, before any crybaby start complaining about like, oh, look at this liberal establishment trying to shit on Trump. No, bud. This release date was nailed down long ago.
Right. And let's be also very clear that this is a movie where Captain America is in fact a black man. And that makes it even like it's even weirder. Like just the idea that like it can feel like, wow, this is Captain America, literally like the iconic representation of American values has to go to war with the American government. And it's such and the fact that like
and it's a black man that is going to war.
A black man.
Yeah.
And he's going
incredible.
to war with a very white dude who turns into a Hulk. Which, like, let's be honest, Donald Trump is not a Hulk, but you could.
He is a hulking
he's,
presence.
He's a Hulk of his own
the
making.
end.
But it does feel like the kind of thing that just on the like the snippets and the trailer stuff, like it feels like, oof, like this does have like it's weird, right? Like, so it's a weird thing just to see it and to be like, oh, this was not intentional, right? Like,
Right. No.
They were just doing the movie they wanted to do, but it just feels like a little bit off.
Serendipitous, yeah.
Like for me, where I'm like, oh, yikes. And I don't know, like, I don't know how it'll work. Part of me worries that we're going to go watch it and it's going to be like, oh, actually, America was right all along, you know, or some shit. Like, ooh, yikes.
Yeah.
But it does have that weird resonance that
Well, those associated with the upcoming administration have not made fans or been friends with Disney. So I don't know if they'll pull back on any of that shit.
Right.
But
so what a weird, like there's just the timing. And again, they released this trailer days after the election. And again, that's because they had already scheduled that. They had all their press shit. Like, I get that. But also now it hits just a little bit differently.
and what I like about the trailer, I think what made it sort of, because we've seen at least one trailer for this film before this, but I don't know. There's the vibe of it. There was just something, pardon the pun, stark about it. Something just kind of gritty about it. Not that I want my, I like my movies, hashtag, gritty and
Gritty.
yeah.
Well, you did like Batman.
Well, not on the second viewing. I watched The Batman with my wife after seeing it in theaters. I'm like, no, this is really cool. And then I'm like, wow, this is 3 hours long, and really they're gonna it's fine. Apparently the Penguin's very good. I haven't seen that. Probably won't. But it was really emphasizing sort of the intrigue, the espionage, the for lack of a better word, the political aspect of the story more than like, here is Captain America doing Captain America stuff. Although we see plenty of that.
We see plenty of that.
But it felt really restrained. It felt very, very much more of like a mood piece about, this is not just another Marvel movie. This is like, this I'm not going to say it's about stuff, but it's definitely more. It felt
But
they're emphasizing the groundedness of it. The
but it felt like it's about stuff.
sure, yes, yes.
Which, like, yes, it did. And I think that's...
And it's not about stuff, at least relevant to stuff, right?
So yeah, it's weird. It's weird because in the stuff they like literally try to say that like America, the iconic representation, in America, the government are out of sync. Now, I say that with the worry that there's like some Trump supporter out there who's like, yeah, it's out of sync. But like, it does feel like, again, now the new Captain America has to go to war with America. Oof.
I mean, yeah. And that's the scary part also. It's like the last time he kind of did that was because Hydra literally took over. In a pretty, not in a scary bit of subterfuge, but no, he's just going straight up to war against America in this one.
Well, we'll see, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't know.
We'll see. We don't know.
Giancarlo Esposito may be playing fucking Hydra 2.0. Like we don't know.
Maybe. So, I mean, speaking of like going from sort of sober political intrigue and perhaps commentary, we then go to Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts asterisk.
Which is like, okay, this is going to sound mean. And it's not mean because I liked especially the last film, but it kind of feels like Marvel has finally found their Suicide Squad kind of vehicle, right? The James Gunn Suicide Squad specifically. Like, this movie looks fun because it knows how stupid it is.
Right.
And I am kind of into that self-awareness as well.
Yes. I mean, yeah. No, it's.
I don't think it'll be as at batshit as James Gunn's Suicide Squad was, so. But this I will say, like, even though it's still very much in a lot of ways a teaser, because we don't get. Haven't watched the movie yet. It's a trailer. That's how it goes. But like, just there's a chemistry with these characters, with these actors, I should say, that is vibrant and just a blast to watch. And they do a really good job, especially at the beginning of this trailer, emphasizing this motley crew of just bonkers characters. Yeah, a lot of fun, and it totally knows what it is. I think there's even a part in the trailer where I think it's someone says like, "So we're just going to kick in the door and start shooting everything," or something like that, and they're like, "Yeah," I'm like, all right. At least they know what they're doing. They're not couching it.
And there's another part where they say like, "So all of us just like shoot stuff or hit things."
That's what it was. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah.
and Bob.
Yeah, except for the one person who poops through space or whatever, Ghost, I think. But yeah, like it really is, but also like it definitely feels like it has a vibe, and that vibe is a bit silly, right? It is
irreverent,
like that Suicide Squad, like the fact that the trailer opens with them in this this car being driven by.
Well, yeah, Did you see the side? Red Guardian.
Red Guardian.
Did you see the side of the vehicle? It's Red Guardian limo service.
Right. And it's like, oh, don't worry. I have like when it's like, let me activate the security, the defensive measures, and it like turns on the limo lights, which was fun. Like that. Like I'm excited to see that movie.
But also, like there was a shared. I would say a little bit of a shared quality to the two trailers in that it also kind of had a tone of being much more like much smaller and grounded and visceral, not really relishing or obviously sort of relishing or exploiting the fact that it's got a big CG budget. Like we see, like going back to what you're talking about, it's not a big fuck off space adventure multiverse thing, right? And the cinematography combined with the scenes they've shown really are just both of these movies are really emphasizing, for me as a person that loves this stuff, it obviously stands out for me. It's like these are both movies that are really about character and these characters' stories, which is for me a nice sort of breath of fresh air for the big epic kind of stuff that Marvel has been doing and has been kind of the expectation for a lot of Marvel stuff. At least the movies, I should say. I don't want to lump the TV shows in there.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, again, watching the trailer, I was like, oh, this movie seems great. Like, I want to see it. I'm excited for it. It feels like they have. I mean, I say this in I don't know, when does it come out?
I have it right here. May 2nd, 2025.
So in 6 months, gosh, I hope it's not shit.
I know, right?
Like I don't want this movie to be shit because it feels like a fun, irreverent, romp in the Marvel universe with characters that are all adjacent to something else. Yeah.
Do you remember the last time we saw that Julia Louis-Dreyfus character?
So she was in Black Widow, and she was in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, sure.
I don't know what else she's been in.
Let me click on.
I think that's it because that's. She may have been in Hawkeye.
She popped up in Wakanda Forever as well.
But it's all, it's people that are adjacent to this motley crew of shitheads.
Here we go. Oh, here's the list. She appeared in Falcon and Winter Soldier, post-credit sequence of Black Widow and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Oh, and apparently she'll return in the upcoming film Thunderbolts.
Oh, who'd have guessed? Wow. Had you not seen the trailer?
Wait, I was supposed to watch a trailer for this? We kind of actually got hints towards the explanation for the asterisk in this trailer as well. A little bit, kind of, not really. At the very end, they're like, it was Red Guardian's like, so we're the Thunderbolts or something like that. And then someone's like, we can't call ourselves that. I don't know. Maybe they'll address the asterisk. That's we'll see. Maybe as the English teacher, that's the thing I care about.
Why the asterisk?
Come on, I need to know. I need to see the footnote. Come on, give me the end notes. Yeah, it looks super fun. Which kind of is, again, for both these movies, like I was fine. Like I'm like, yeah, I'll see them eventually. But like these trailers especially,
in very different ways,
got me stoked to see them. I'm like excited to see them. Like, can we get those here faster? Because I need some joy. But
you say that again. Let's remember what Brave New World is ostensibly about.
It's a guy in an America costume kicking the shit out of maybe a shitty president. I might be okay with that. So there was one more Marvel trailer. That actually inspired some, as of this recording, inspired some of my behavior this very evening, Andrew. We saw a trailer for, or it was released, a trailer for What If Season 3.
Season 3.
And so my quick sort of insert here is that I watched the trailer. I'm like, oh, this looks cool. I was kind of lukewarm. I don't know if I talked about it in the show, kind of lukewarm on What If. And like a lot of shit, it's very petty, but like the animation style just threw me off when I first tried to watch it. But this trailer is cool, mainly because I saw some X-Men. I'm like, all right, maybe the show's all right. Maybe the show's all right. And so I did go back and pick up from where I left off and watched another episode. The episode I watched tonight, again, I was still in season 1. It was What If Doctor Strange kept his hands but lost his heart. And apparently that was a very popular and well-regarded episode. But that's the one where he just he goes sour.
Right.
And yeah, pretty brutal. Good episode though. I will admit Not just because I saw X-Men in the upcoming season. I think I was being a bit harsh on it. I will probably continue with it. Although, being not a huge zombie fan, the next episode is called What If Zombies? Like, okay, we'll see. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
I will say that What If is a weird show where some of the episodes are just like the classic What If.
So you've seen all the both seasons so far? Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think my questions can speak to the things you're about to talk about. The basic idea behind the What If comics was that it's basically an anthology comic. Like, what if this happened? And isn't it fun? But I got the vibe that... And so that's kind of like I was picking and choosing, actually, from the first season. I have seen, like, up until that point, I think 3 episodes. The first 2, and then maybe I jumped ahead or something like that. I can't remember. But then I was getting the feeling from internet chatter that, like, oh, no, there's actually like a contiguous story they're telling. Okay. Yes. Is that... So... Is thumbs up, thumbs down? Like, did you like that about it? Did you want it to be more of an anthology show? Like, what? As a person that's seen both seasons, what is your general take on
season
What If?
3? That's what, like, some of what you're seeing in the trailer for season 3, I believe, is relevant to that like story. I would say that actually. Part of me almost, I actually do have to rewatch it. Oh, no. So it is very much that it starts as an anthology show where things go awry. And like I will say, for people that have seen it, they know this, like, things go awry basically because, like, your anthology leader,
the Watcher, right?
The Watcher, like, things go bad. In part because he's watching.
Right. I think that this episode I just watched is like one of the turning points there because the Watcher directly addresses Doctor Strange. And he's like, why don't you do anything? He's like, I can't.
That Doctor Strange is in fact a recurring character.
Okay. The Chimera Doctor Strange, yeah.
Or at least he comes back at least once.
Okay.
So, like, it becomes this thing where it is like an interesting, honestly, probably a more interesting way to do a Marvel multiverse, whatever they were trying to do. Because it is like there's enough Marvel out there, you can just watch these shows. Each one is kind of on its own, except when they're not. Right. There's definitely more in season 2 because there's certainly, like, in season 2, I will say they do an episode where it becomes the continuation of Captain Carter.
Right. I actually skipped ahead. I didn't skip ahead, but in my Disney Plus app, I skipped over and, like, was just reading the descriptions of the season 2 episodes. I'm like, oh, this is the Captain Carter show at this point.
Well, and I think part of it was that she was so popular they put her into more stuff.
Dude. No problem. No qualm on my part.
But, like, that's just the idea that, like, in season 2, they do the part 2 of her story. And it ends with then her being dragged into some other story because of now the multiversal hoo-ha.
I think it was the episode.
Spoiler, it's the 1603.
That I'm excited for that episode, actually. But, like, there's an episode in season 2 where it's like, oh, this is just your excuse to bring Captain Carter back. Where it's like, what if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Sazubla? And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but sure.
Right.
We need to bring it back. And I love Sazubla.
Well, because I think they basically do Winter Soldier, but what if Captain Carter, right?
Yeah,
instead of Captain America. But like that's part of it. Like, part of it is just throwing out these weird, like, alternatives, and some of it's tying them all together.
Sure.
Because, like, I think certainly there are episodes in each season where it brings the characters together, right? Like, oh, okay, now you've seen like 6 episodes of these independent people. Now, what if they come together to do the thing?
Right. And and then there's the there's the X factor of it all.
Well,
because the trailer ends on Storm. Thorm. I like Thorm. Let's do Thorm. No, yeah, classic. Pulling on visuals, at least from a classic, I believe is a New Mutants annual or an Uncanny X-Men annual, where Storm gets the powers of Thor, gets her own hammer. I think it's during a time when she was depowered, actually, and it's beloved. But I want to say there was as a Fox X-Men apologist. Towards the end of the trailer too, there's like they're running through a bunch of just faces basically, and I'm like, Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse is in that.
I have no idea.
That rundown, and I am here for it. So,
but also like what I would say is that, I'm a little bit sad that they're saying that this is like the final season, because
Sure.
like I kind of like that this is like a
right.
not the trash bin, but it's like just do whatever, right?
It's
like
the whatever, right? Yeah, it's the brainstorm. Oh, could that be her name? No, probably not. But no, yeah. When you develop a contiguous ongoing story, like it has to end at some point, or else people are going to get bored, or it just becomes inert. Which is, I would agree, is kind of a shame for the premise of What If, which is just kind of like it's an endless idea of like just what if this and what if that. But
Right.
if they feel like they could bring it back for sure, but are they compelled now because they've done it to, when they do it, if they do it again, to create another 3 season run of a story? I'm like, can we just have fun? Can you just have fun? Let's. What if Captain America had a fist growing out of his forehead? Let's just do that. Who cares, right?
And they could actually do like one season. Hey, there's an like do a season, 10 episodes or whatever, where the last one brings it together, right? Like sure. They could do that. Like have each season be its own thing,
right?
We'll see. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the episode I ever want to see is like, what if Iron Man 2 was good?
There's no universe where that actually happens. So, oops.
So yeah, these trailers, again, we don't usually just spend time talking about trailers, but they're making a statement.
There.
Like they're like a state of the union of the Marvel universe, and or at the very least, let's move away from politics. It's a statement of purpose, and they're definitely. It feels, again, we haven't seen the show or the 2 movies at all, but what's interesting is that all these trailers, to me, and maybe I can speak for Andrew, felt very rejuvenated, felt very fresh, felt very lively in a way that maybe we haven't really seen from Marvel in a long time, aside from bits and bops throughout the years. Obviously, like Agatha All Along and Ms. Marvel, of course, were and stuff like that were highlights in what the discourse is saying is a low point, and others I'm sure we could point to, but it feels like, oh, this is their next major sort of statement to the world. Like I'm actually pretty excited about what they're offering. It feels very, like I said, feels focused, feels very character based, and the interesting thing about it is that ostensibly, and I would say that the Thunderbolts falls into this. They're all create this tone of excitement and vigor, despite all being basically sequels.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's the first official Captain America movie with Anthony Mackie, but it's definitely continuing on ideas that are brought up in, especially Falcon and Winter Soldier. Thunderbolts, of course, couldn't exist without all those characters popping up in all the other shows. And What If is the trailer for the 3rd season. Like, this is if these are as good as they seem, that's an incredible feat to pull off, and maybe is the foothold that Marvel's been looking for, or that people have been waiting for when it comes to Marvel stuff. So there's only one thing to say: Who knows? But we'll see.
Knows.
There we go.
Or what if?
What if ... question mark. That's the official title. So, or is it only 2 dots? Let me look this up. This is important to me. It's a full umlaut. Not umlaut. Jesus Christ. It's a full ellipsis. It's a full ellipsis. ... then question.
English professor doesn't know what an umlaut is.
I shouldn't. Not in my language. So if you, dear listeners, have any thoughts about the topics we discussed in this episode, feel free to leave your thoughts as comments on the page of this episode at forallintents.net.
You can also post your comments or engage in conversations with other listeners on our Facebook page.
You're going to find us on other social media as well, specifically places that Andrew and I frequent, which is definitely not X/Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at dbethelcomics, and you can find Andrew on Mastodon at profounddarkatdice.camp.
While you're at our website at forallintents.net, you can also take a look at our YouTube page, which you can find by clicking on the link in the corner that says YouTube. There you'll find the show simulcast in YouTube. If you do listen to the show on YouTube, please like and subscribe, or as the kids like to say, ring that bell.
We use 2 tracks of music for our show. One is called Disco Medusi. The other is called District 4. They're both written and performed by Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod, immortal swordsman, graph paper enthusiast, and musician extraordinaire.
You can find his music and more at incompetech.filmmusic.io, and that's all licensed under the Creative Commons 4.0 Attribution License.
If you like the show and like to help us out, the best way to do so would be to subscribe to the show using whichever podcasting service you happen to use. What would help us out even more, though, would be to leave some sort of review, whether a text review or using their proprietary metric will help spread the word to new potential listeners through the magic of algorithms.
So here's another like bizarro fun fucking fact. I was talking. Sorry, this is like apparently this is the episode where Andrew talks about weird shit. I was talking to somebody today. Really, I was talking about how Kevin Sorbo is a weird conservative Christian piece of shit.
Yeah.
But I kind of said like, oh, and it's weird that he was in Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, where he played a Greek god or demigod. But then I said like, oh, it's weird that show like both Hercules and Xena leaned into like weird Christian shit.
Yeah.
And the fact that they actually they had like a Jesus character.
It did. I remember that. Yeah.
He was in Xena. He was named Eli, and it was like, oh yeah, that was the character. I looked him up. I was like reading about it. I was like, who played this guy? And I was shocked to realize the guy that played the Jesus stand-in in Xena was in fact an actor I recognized. Like I was like, what actor is it? Who is this person? It was like, oh, it's Timothy Omundson.
Omundson? And he's not from New Zealand, which is even more surprising.
Right, like you're right. Actually, that's a fair point. Not from New Zealand. The fact that like I knew it was like, oh, the guy from Psych that played Lassiter, he was in all sorts of stuff, right? Like he was in Supernatural. He played Cain. He was in the musical weird fantasy show
Gallivant.
Yeah.
And you shared this in the group chat you have with myself and Taylor. I'm like, oh, the guy from Psych, and Taylor's like, yes, the guy from Psych. Apparently, Taylor's a big Psych fan.
He's a massive Psych
respect. But that brought up my favorite fun fact about Psych. I found this out not because I watched Psych. No offense, Taylor. I think I was working at the movie theater that I worked at for cumulatively 6.5 years. Someone's like, hey, you know there's a character named Dan Bethel on this week's episode of Psych. I'm like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, no, he's the villain. I'm like, what? And yeah, I went and looked it up, and I own one episode of Psych on my iTunes because I'm like, I should support
you should
Dan Bethel's everywhere.
Yeah.
Especially fictional ones. Let me be specific.
That are villains.
I think he murdered his dad in that episode of Psych, which,
Yikes.
I should talk to my therapist about that. But I'm not saying my name is special. Bethel's not the most common last name, and it definitely wouldn't expect a Dan Bethel to be the name of just a one-off character on a TV show. Which made me like, did I go to high school with the writer or something like that? Like, who did I piss off, and when did I do it? But that's pretty fun. Anyway, Psych is fine. It has Gus, who was also in The West Wing, and he's great in every show.
And in what's the new show he was in? The Wonder Years.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Look at us. We're just a show about making connections. And until we make deeper and further connections with you, dear listeners, I'm Dan Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
And for all intents and purposes...
No, you're D. Bethel, dude.
Oh, that's true. Well, I'm not a murderer, fictional or otherwise. And for all intents and purposes...
That was a podcast. You never introduce yourself. You never say you're...
I know. I realized how weird that felt. This is our capstone 4-hour-long episode all about...
How much I love Joe Locke.
Yep. The wall in front of me now is covered in stuff.
Oh, tell me more.
Which should hopefully break up some of the bounce. The wall behind me is still nude.
You're listening to the dulcet tones of Dan Bethel in his half-nude room.
Let me tell you about my nude wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's naked.
Okay, whoa. I just spent last week.
Hello.
Hi. We're talking.
It is time.
Time for what? For you to interrupt? Because you're interrupting.
That's my job.
Okay, so...
I was hired to be annoying.
Oh, I should have prepared an outro.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Little farty noises. Yeah, we're done.
Does he talk a lot during anime?
Oh, he has friends over.
Oh, okay.